We killed the queen. I was surprised by how easy it was. Those words were in a private letter, dated October 9th, 1895, the morning after. It surfaced at a flea market in Japan in 2021, after 126 years in a box. Korea's queen was murdered, and the 56 men who did it, not one was ever punished. How? Most people, when they think of Korea in the 1890s, imagine a small kingdom caught between empires, a minor piece on the great power's chessboard. That's exactly what Japan wanted the world to believe. But there was one person in Seoul who refused to accept that role. Her name was Min Jae-young. History would call her Empress Myeongseong, Queen Min. She was born in 1851, the daughter of a minor noble family. At 16, she was selected as the royal consort of King Gojong, chosen precisely because she had no powerful relatives. The court assumed she would be easy to manage. They were wrong. Within a decade, she had built a political network that stretched from Beijing to St. Petersburg to Washington. She played China against Japan. She invited Russian military advisors. She outmaneuvered every faction that tried to sideline her. In the summer of 1895, Japan won the First Sino-Japanese War. China's protection over Korea was gone overnight. Japan moved fast. A pro-Japanese cabinet was installed in Seoul. Japanese military advisors occupied the palace grounds. The Korean army was placed under Japanese command. And at the center of every attempt to push back, still, was the Queen. Japan's new envoy arrived in Seoul that August. His name was Miura Koro, a retired army general with no diplomatic experience and no patience for politics. He had accepted the posting reluctantly, but he arrived with a plan. Here's what most people don't know. The operation had a name. The Japanese called it Fox Hunt, Fukogari. The fox was their code word for the Empress. Within weeks, Miura assembled a strike force. 30 Japanese civilian operatives, soshi, political thugs, recruited from Kumamoto Prefecture. A battalion of the Huryonde Regiment, the Korean army unit trained and commanded by Japanese officers, and officials from the Japanese consulate. On the night of October 7th, word reached Miura. King Gojong had ordered the Huryonde dissolved, the unit he needed to open the palace gates. Miura moved the operation to the following morning. At 2 a.m., the convoy left for Gongdeokdi. This is what happened between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. on October 8th, 1895. 2 a.m. The convoy arrived at the private residence of the Hungsan Daeonggun, King Gojong's aging father, the queen's rival for 30 years. They needed him inside the palace, as a symbol, as cover. Negotiations lasted 2 hours. The old man agreed. 4:30 a.m. The convoy moved. Japanese army officers, civilian operatives, Korean soldiers in Japanese-issued uniforms, and the Daeonggun inside a palanquin. 40 minutes, 4 kilometers, in silence. 5 a.m. The outer walls of Gyeongbokgung Palace. Folding ladders, silhouettes climbing. 5:30 a.m. Gwanghamon, the great southern gate, opened from the inside. Commander Hong Ge-hun was waiting. He was the palace's senior military officer. He was the only one who tried to stop them. He was shot. The search began. Not one attacker had ever seen the queen's face. There were no reliable photographs, no official portrait they could circulate. They had no description beyond, "She looks important." They searched corridor by corridor. They grabbed every woman they found. 2 court ladies were killed, mistaken for the queen. The minister of the royal household threw himself in front of the inner chamber. His hands were cut off. He bled to death in the corridor. A Russian architect named Seredin Sabatin, it was his first night of duty at the queen's compound, was surrounded in the courtyard. A Japanese operative approached him. "Where is the queen? Point the queen out to us." He refused. She was found. She was dressed like the other court ladies. She had hidden among them. One attacker testified later at trial. She was quite self-possessed, not making a fuss. She looked like somebody important. She knew. What happened inside that corridor in the minutes that followed was not entered into any official record. It was, however, written down. Once, the morning after, by a Japanese official who was not part of the operation. He described what the attackers did to her body before it was moved. Then he stopped writing. He wrote that he could not put the words on the page. The court ladies who came later to identify her, not one of them put into testimony what they saw when they entered that room. Their silence is the record. At approximately 6 a.m. on October 8, 1895, Empress Myeongseong, the woman who had built Korea's last line of political resistance, was killed inside the Gyeongbokgung Palace compound. Her son, the crown prince, was 11 years old. He was present. King Gojong was brought before the Japanese. They placed a decree in front of him. He was told to sign. "You can cut off my fingers. I will not sign." 6:30 a.m. The body was carried to the Okoru Pavilion, identified by court ladies who had served her. Confirmed. 6:45 a.m. Carried to the Pine Grove on Noksan Hill, the artificial hill east of the compound, doused in oil, set alight. 7 a.m. By 7 a.m., the Japanese were gone. Foreign diplomats, watching from outside, saw them leave through Gwanghwamun, walking, unhurried, in daylight. That morning, Miura sent a telegram to Tokyo. The Queen had possibly escaped during a mishap. The incident was the result of infighting between Korean troops. Any Japanese swords seen at the scene were probably carried by Koreans in disguise. 3 Korean men were executed on that false accusation. 56 Japanese men were recalled to Japan, put on trial in Hiroshima. The proceedings lasted 3 weeks. All 56 were acquitted. Insufficient evidence. The verdict acknowledged the conspiracy and still returned not guilty. The evidence was given back to the defendants. Miura Goro never spent a day in prison. He was later appointed to the Emperor's Advisory Council. He died in 1926 at 79. The state funeral for Empress Myeongseong was held in November 1897, 2 years and 1 month after her death. What was placed inside the coffin, the official records do not say. Here's what bothers historians most. The truth was written down. The morning after, a Japanese government advisor named Ishizuka Eizo wrote a private letter to Tokyo describing what the attackers did inside the palace before dawn. Then he stopped. He wrote, "I cannot bring myself to write it." He wrote it anyway. He called the method, in his own words, careless, almost childish. That letter stayed sealed for 71 years. The cover-up worked. For decades. Then the documents surfaced. In 2005, a classified consular report was found in Tokyo, filed the day after. It confirmed the killing happened outdoors, in the open courtyard. And the document showed the emperor had read it and approved it. In 2021, the letter from the flea market. The Japanese government has never apologized. The sword used that morning, a Japanese blade called a hizen-to, sits today in a Shinto shrine in Fukuoka, Japan. Engraved on the sheath, "In one flash of lightning, I struck the old fox." The shrine has closed public access to it. 130 years later, the questions remain open. Who gave the final order? And why, of all the things that vanished that morning, does the sword survive? The more you dig into this story, the more you realize the cover-up wasn't a failure. The cover-up was the point. Leave your answer in the comments. This has been Korea Explained. The more you know Korea, the more you want to know.